about 300 people all together at different meetings, but it's a pleasure being here. I appreciate your mayor. I watched him when during the prayer. I always try to keep an eye on that offering plate around these politicians, and he's doing a $10 bill. So I'm a fan of his. Nobody's looking what he's doing. My buddy Logan's here. Him and my daddy were buddies, and I miss my daddy every day. I'm an unrepentant mama's boy. My daddy was my best friend. So it's always a pleasure to be home. And I want to thank our wonderful caterer. That's the best thing about it. You think I come here to hang out with Aunt Ayers. I can hang out with Aunt anytime. I come up here to eat. Y'all always feed me good, and I love them. Those ladies are so wonderful. I've been here with my different events with my girls, and everybody's just wonderful. And it is such a pleasure to be home. Let me tell you, I love this county. I wasn't sure how we were going to get to represent it, but in God's infinite wisdom, and maybe you're all's bad luck, I get to represent y'all, and it's cool. I love y'all. So that's enough of that. And our reporter right here rolled in on a Triumph motorcycle, so I have a few Triumphs, and except all mine have kick starts and they leak oil. And yours obviously did. Now I pulled up Sarah. I said, I think that was a Triumph motorcycle. It was one of the new ones. I need to get something like that. My wife gets tired of me they're all breaking down. When I married my wife, I had over 100 motorcycles. Not like Jay Leno though. Most of mine are boat anchors. All his ran. I just enjoy it. And I'll tell you one cool story. My daddy fought in the Pacific, the Marine Corps, and he came home, got what they call mustered out pay. And combat pay, you get a little extra. I think Daddy got like about 45 bucks a month. Does that sound about right? Anyway, and they mustered him out. I think they gave him $200 or $300, and he bought a brand new Indian motorcycle, Seafoam Blue. And he rode that thing around a little bit, raised a little cane like a lot of those guys did. They didn't quite fit in after all that. And Daddy, then he sold it, and he used that money to buy my mama her wedding ring. And I gave my wife that wedding ring, and I have a 1947 Indian Chief that's Seafoam Blue. So it kind of went full circle, and I'm kind of digging that. I'll talk a little bit about things going on, 3 or 4 quick things, then I'll just answer questions if that's all right with y'all. I'd rather listen to what y'all got to say. First, Doge. Mentioned I'm on the Doge subcommittee. Elon Musk probably identified a lot more than was disclosed. He talked about trillions, which I still believe are there. I think Washington is crooked. I think it's broke. I think both parties play a part in it. I know this is a nonpartisan event. I personally believe the other party is a little more crooked, but it doesn't matter. We're stealing from y'all. You have these things called non-government organizations that get millions, billions, and maybe even trillions if you add it all up. And it's a non-government organization, but yet it gets your tax dollars. Now, how the heck does that work? It doesn't. And the way they do it is, and Elon Musk told me this, he said, I called him Mr. Musk, and he said, don't call me Elon. We were sitting across the table from each other, small, about 8 or 9 of us. And he said that the way they do it is they get this money. I mean, do you honestly think we're spending $10 million on drag shows in Peru? I mean, no, we're not. The money goes in what's called dark money. And dark money is kind of an untraceable. The big boys use it. The Republicans use it against fellow Republicans, and they use it against Democrats, and Democrats use it against us, and I assume against their own people. But it's untraceable money, basically. So the money goes into these accounts, and then it's filtered back out because money is fungible. It just flows into the available vacuum. That money comes back to Washington, and it can be used against people in their campaigns. Now, but what's even worse than that is, and what I think and what Elon told me was that it's probably going into people's pockets. You see good conservatives vote for liberal bills, and good liberals vote for conservative bills. Now, why do they do that? They're compromised. Their wife and or their girlfriend, probably both, would work for one of these agencies. And if your agency's getting $1 billion, they could throw out a $200,000 salary, not even miss it. That's not even a decimal point. So how they set these things up. The big boys will put $1 million into a fund, and it'll have a great name like, the Feed the Hungry Kids, which we're all Christian people, we're all decent people, we want to take care of folks. So you see that and think, well, it fits the criteria, and they got $1 million in their account. And then what happens? The federal government will throw $1 billion in that account, and that's where the trouble lies. And so we've uncovered a lot of those things. USA started out as a good thing, and it just like everything else in Washington, like immigration, like everything else, healthcare, education, you name it. Once the government puts their claws into it and starts putting the money to it, it gets corrupted. You just see that available money, and these jokers are, as Kaz Walker would say, crooked as a dog's leg, and that's what they are. And so it's kind of my job to spot that stuff and point it out, bring it up, and we go to, a lot of the stuff gets the press as the NPR and the PBS. They're not going to be out of business. It's a very small percentage of what they got, and we're not against the First Amendment. They can say whatever they want to, but my tax dollars shouldn't have to pay for it. And we're $36 trillion in debt. Let's get back to what we need. Let's take care of some hungry folks. Let's make sure people that need the medicine, need health care, can get it. But the ones that aren't, that are just taken off the system, they need to be out working. It'll poll 85-90%, even liberals, conservatives, anywhere you go. People think that if you're eligible to work, you ought to be working. And Medicaid, Medicare, all those all that money they talked about was poor people getting kicked off. That's just not accurate. It's nowhere in any of that legislation. There's a 20-hour work requirement if you're eligible, but a single mom with 2 kids in a bad situation is not going to be affected. A bill I've been working on and I passed, it's called Defund the Taliban. There's a guy named Sean Ryan, Navy SEAL, did a podcast out of Franklin. It was kind of small when I first started on it, but he rivals Joe Rogan sometimes in some markets. He discovered through another guy who was an Afghan, he goes by the name Legend, because he doesn't have I know his name, but he doesn't give his name out because he has a hit out on him, like some of us apparently now do too as well. But he discovered that the Taliban were sending this money to Afghanistan, which y'all know we left there. We left, I can't remember how many millions or billions of dollars worth of armaments we left on the ground there. And we should have destroyed it. We were told that the Afghans didn't have the technology to do anything with those helicopters. Well, it wasn't the Afghans that had the technology, it was the Chinese that were on the ground when we were leaving that had the technology. So they have it. Now we've armed our enemies to come after American boys and girls with our own armaments. But, so we're over there and we've got these NGOs, non-government organizations that are set up to take care of poor people and hungry people over there, moms and kids. And there's over 1,000 NGOs operating in Afghanistan now. So what do? We sent them 5, according to the State Department, the Taliban has received close to $5 billion now. We send them $40 million a week. And how that works is they have 3 banks controlled by the Taliban, the leaders of those banks, and they take a cutoff of everything. Everything. We're in the church, the Lord takes 10%. These guys take a lot more. And every transaction, it goes through their bank, and they auction off our cash. We send it's literally cash. And they auction it off, and so the Taliban gets their cut, and then we think some of it's flowing back to NGOs and flowing back to America again. I discovered this, I passed legislation this year to stop it, and then when I amended it to add NGOs to the non-funding, and people just flipped out, and you could tell that it's just obvious who's getting rich off this thing, and it's your money we're sending. Our enemies are getting it, and then they're giving it back to crooked politicians. So it's passed the House. Now it's in the Senate. A guy named Sheehy, he's a former Navy SEAL, oddly enough, who's carrying the bill, and Tommy Tuberville, former Auburn football coach, he's a buddy of mine as well. They both are working on it, and I understand that bill will be hopefully moving through very soon in the Senate after they do all these confirmations. But I was on CNN or Fox or one of these the other day, and I said, did y'all see what just ran by us? And they said, no, what? And I said, a glacier. I mean, that's how fast this bunch moves. It's ridiculous. So anyway, the one big beautiful bill, it was a lot more than I wanted to spend, and they're saying, well, that's $3 trillion over the next 10 years. Well, folks, in the last 4 years, every 100 days, we added $1 trillion. So we've reduced the rate of growth exponentially. I'd rather reduce growth, period, but you've got a lot of things going on. We've got to get some control over the Pentagon spending. I don't like that. I don't like the way that's headed. We need to be in hypersonics. We need to be invested in drone technology. I can talk about it now. I've talked about it in the past, but now it's pretty much out there. The Chinese have developed a drone that's literally as big as the end of your thumb. And so what they can do with that is facial recognition. Say they want to get somebody. Say I'm in Neyland Stadium and they want to get me. They can put that drone into there, that little fly, and it can fly around, facially identify me out of 105,000 people, fly up right to my head and blow up and just kill me. That is the technology we're dealing with. We've got to get out of aircraft carriers. It's not like my daddy's war. The Japanese are not going to bomb Pearl Harbor. They're not going to roll across the Pacific, and then American might's going to raise up. 8 months later, we're going to go back and take the world in the Atlantic and the Pacific like we did in the Second World War. It will be with the drone technology. You can put a couple of $100,000 worth of drones in the air and literally destroy an aircraft carrier with $500 billion worth of apparatus on the deck. That is, and we keep building these goddamn aircraft carriers. And why do we do that? I sit in these meetings, and the head of this committee will come in and talk to us, another congressman, and he'll say, we got to vote for this because they build the guns in your district, they build the whatever technology in yours, they do the bullets in your district. I mean, literally they'll point out and they'll vote for it because they need the jobs. But a lot of this stuff is mothballed, and we've got to get out of that. That's why I call some of those people, I call them war pimps, because that's what they are. They are just, I mean, I've seen the cost of war. My daddy, to the day he died, you never woke him up over the top of him. You always woke him up by his big toe, because he might be on one of those crazy islands in the Pacific and put you up against the wall. And that's just a fact. And so I know, and Mama lost her oldest brother, Roy. Mama flew an airplane during the war. And my wife is a Navy widow. The biological father of my child was a Master Chief on a Navy sub. I mean, I know the cost, and I've seen it firsthand. I haven't experienced it myself personally, but I understand. And I think we better start taking care of those boys and girls that come home a little better and quit worrying about Wall Street and crooked congressmen that have stock in these things. When Joe Biden gave our missile defense system to the Ukrainians, we had to automatically rebuild ours instantaneously. So that was a multi-billion-dollar contract that went to the missile defense companies instantaneously. No bid. And you know who owns stock in that? Members of Congress on that committee, both parties. Some of them had bought it up to 2 weeks prior to President Biden making that announcement. So it is crooked, it needs to stop. And that's something, you got that for free. We're in a church, so I guess I just gave you a little sermon. Like I said, the One Big Beautiful Bill does some great things. The border, our farmers, on down the line. We're going to start getting our energy here. Small nuclear reactors. Lee Zeldin, who's the head of the EPA, he's a good friend of mine. We were in Congress together years when he got out to run for governor, almost won as a Republican, you can believe that, in New York. And but Lee is putting those nuclear, it's been charged by the president to put those things on. And coal, gas, oil, things that are important to this area, God put it in the ground, we're going to start using it. And we're going to do it. There's going to be some environmental costs, but it's a lot better than it was. And it sure is a lot better than us going to fight these wars overseas for oil. I tell those people over there can eat their dadgum oil. I'd rather Americans, let's get it right here. Epstein, I've kind of threaded the needle on that with that thing. Y'all know anything about my history? I was in the legislature. I passed some of the toughest laws in the country dealing with child molesters. I did some of the first ICAC teams, Internet Crimes Against Children, where these officers would pose as little kids on the internet and catch these dirtbags. Chemical castration. I've tried to do that, is ruled unconstitutional, and I passed the death penalty. Child molesters, that was ruled unconstitutional as well, but now the legislature reintroduced it, and now it's constitutionally valid in Tennessee. So I have a history of it. I've held the hand of people that have been abused and molested, and they carry a freaking life sentence, and it's wrong. I want to make sure in these Epstein files, in our rush to judgment, and I've said this, there's 1,000 little girls, and I corrected a lady on ABC or CNN, I don't know which one, she said that had sex with these people. They didn't have sex, these little girls were raped. I mean, let's just throw it out there. And I said, you know, Epstein's dealing with the devil, and I'd like to send a few more of them down there to deal with him, because I'm over it. There's no excuse for that kind of activity. I don't think Trump went to the island. There's flight logs that show he flew on his plane. That doesn't make him a pedophile. Epstein, I don't think, was even on the dadgum plane. And there's a bunch of people on those flight logs that didn't go to the island, that just rode on his plane. He had a big old plane, and people flying there, they hitch a ride with him, didn't even know him. There's innocent people in that, and we need to make sure those people are protected. But again, I'm for getting to the bottom of it without exposing who the young girls were who are now adults, if they're even alive, and protecting the innocence. But the dirt bags, let's throw them away. I'm ready. That's about it. I'll answer any questions. I'm sorry I'm not as polished and as normal, but I'm unnarcotic. He kept saying, the guy was funny. He came in there, and the little nurse, she was wonderful. And she said she was taking care of him, and the other guy's coming in. He was kind of overseeing the thing, and he said, it doesn't look too bad. I think he just grazed you or something. You're going to be all right. And my wife, because of my life, I have a lot of security cameras and things. We spent a lot on that. And she found it on the security camera. And that dadgum horse caught me right there with that hoof, and it lifted me off the ground. And he goes, after he saw that, he goes, yeah, I think this is a little more serious than I thought. I think so. Anyway, I don't have a tattoo, but I think it would be cool though. I've got that horseshoe print right there. That would be kind of cool. You know, that would be my tattoo where that horse hit me. I don't want anybody poking me right there right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop there. And it wasn't the horse's fault. It was it was my fault. So.
That was my question, why did the horse kick?
I had a horse fly on its tail, and I had the leash or the rein, and I was trying to get it away from it, and it kind of made a noise, so I knew that that horse fly bit it, you're supposed to turn loose of the reins when they go. It's like on television, they always show them fight, and I was just trying to, and I got it turned like that, and it turned, and both of them went in the air, and I caught one right there, and it was crazy. I was on the phone talking to one of my best friends who was in Florida, and he's like, "What happened?" I said, "Man, I just got kicked by a horse," and I was really just trying to stay conscious because it's kind of it's a surreal moment. I was laying there in the grass curled up, and I couldn't talk, and I could hear him, and he said, "Ho, call Kelly. Tim just got kicked by a horse." And he goes, "Where are you at? Are you in which barn you in?" And I said, I'm in the field.
I don't know.
And I was like, and because Kelly was ahead of me with Peggy Sue, which is the sweetest horse of all time. And that young Nelson, it's funny, we castrated him last week, and I got a cracked rib. I still think I got the better part of that deal. I'll take a cracked rib every day over that, I think. But I wasn't a fan of it. I mean, they came out there, and I said, "What?" I said, "Uh-oh," and I just turned around and walked back. I said, "I'm not comfortable with this, y'all. I'm going to sit back on the tractor." And but anyway, he's a good horse. He's a good horse. He was a colt. He was born there. And anyway, I used to not have horses. What in the world? But I just love them. I love all those crazy animals. We got donkeys, and I tweet about them, and they escape all the time. And I was on TV one time. I was getting ready to do an interview, and the neighbor calls, "Hey, your donkeys are up here eating my shrubs." And I go, "Oh no," and he says, "That's fine. We love it." They all just love it. Everybody loves it. So I walked and I called Kelly. I said, "Honey, I got to do this interview." And it was this guy named Dan Ball. He's a wild man. And I said, I got this interview in 30 minutes. He said, can you get the donkeys? He said, honey, I'm with Isabel. We're at, Tractor Supply. I think they were somewhere. And I said, crap. So I run over there, and I get about halfway across the field, and I'm going to make this. And for the first time ever, they get me on 15 minutes early. I'm halfway across that field, and those donkeys, and I always keep peppermints in my pocket, and I'm like the donkey whisperer. And they just come out and hang out with me. And then I was doing it now, so I was holding the phone up, and the guy says, he goes, Congressman, are those donkeys behind you? I said, yeah. And he goes, they escaped. I was trying to get them back, but he goes, and this was live TV, and he goes, that is the most Tim Burchett thing I think I've seen all day. So they're heroes now. But anyway, I love them. They're miniatures, and they keep the coyotes away, and they're wonderful. All right. All right, let's stop there. Answer questions. You're all fair. Yes, sir. And I apologize again when y'all came in. People came by to talk. I always stand for the ladies especially, but give me a break today. I just need one. I'll stand twice next time I see you.
How do the Democrats get such loyalty within their party? How do you get 100%?
Yes, sir. They use what's called the carrot and the stick. They reward and they punish, and we don't. But I would warn you, I like the independents. I've been warned off on a lot of issues. I've been warned off leadership. I'll blast them on the corruption. And a buddy of mine we came to Congress together, and he's on the fast track to be, speaker or something. And he said, man, some of the chairmen are a little upset, Burchett, they caught you on Fox saying this stuff. And I said to him, but it's the truth, right? You know it's the truth. He goes, oh, I know it's the truth. We just don't want you to say it anymore. And so, see you, brother. Thank you. But yeah, that's how they do it. That's how they do it, carrot and stick. And the problem we've got is we've got a 3-person majority, or 4-person. We're one flu season away from losing the majority. And we've got members that are from New York. And I don't, they talk funny, and I don't agree with them on much. But the reality is, Kamala Harris won their districts, one of them by 15 points, yet they're elected as Republicans. So it's kind of the Ronald Reagan adage, if they're with you 85% of the time, they're not 85% your friend, they're still your friend. And I'm friends with everybody. There's a couple of one Republican won't speak to me because he was tied up with the former speaker, and I was one that removed him. So he'll turn his back to me when he sees me. But I'm friends with everybody. AOC, Pelosi, Jim Jordan, they're all my friends. I'm not big on all. I'm not worried about all that. I got bigger fish to fry and you literally will get on an elevator. I've seen it with both parties, and people will get off the elevator because somebody gets on with it. I'm like, what are y'all? My wife always says it's like junior high school with big checkbooks, and I just refuse to be caught up in that. I'll fight them. Steve Cohen, don't agree with him on anything, but you know what? He called my mama when my daddy died. We were in the state legislature, and I can't get past that. And if I were to call him right now and I needed something, he'd be here. I've got Jared Moskowitz. He's Jewish, and I made him my Santa Claus at my Christmas party. CNN got on to me. I said, well, Congressman, he's Jewish, right? And I said, hey, my Savior's Jewish. If I want my Santa Claus to be Jewish, I'll make him right. And he he's got a little money. And he's got this gay dude in his office named Marcel. Marcel's a buddy of mine. And he's got these 2 great big old poodles, a black and a white poodle. And Moskowitz comes down the hall and had them like on a leash, like he was Santa Claus being pulled, and they were like his elves. It was the greatest thing of all time. That was 2 years ago. And this year I had George Santos, of course he's in prison now, and I called him Santos Claus. It was the funniest thing, and then people lined up to get their picture made with him. I don't care. Life's too short, brother.
It's too sure.
Ma'am?
Life's too short and death is too sure.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But anyway, that's a good question. I'm sorry, I won't answer so long. Anybody have anything else?
Tim, you're in pain. Do you understand that we love you? We've known you forever, and you could have postponed this visit.
Nah, we didn't, and I wouldn't have gotten the good food. No, ma'am, I'm gonna be hurting at home, and they tried to give me these crazy narcotics, and my wife said, give him something good. He never gets anything, because we don't drink or anything. And I said, no, I got. And they gave me Tylenol IV, but it wasn't codeine or anything. I'm in good shape, ma'am. I'm
I
fine.
can tell.
I'm all right, ma'am.
That's Sam, she can too.
I'm okay. I'm just glad to be here. I don't take myself serious, but I take the job very serious. And a lot of y'all helped me get here, so I need to make sure y'all know I'm glad to be here. You were going to say something, ma'am.
What do you consider your greatest accomplishment?
Answering the phone, fighting the machine. The greatest thing in politics I ever did, I gave those poor people at Gibbs Elementary School a new school without raising tax dollars. I'll never forget that day. My mom and daddy were educators, and it was always somebody else. I can always remember coming home when I was a little boy and smelling bacon and eggs cooking at supper time. I knew what had happened. Daddy had picked some poor family up off the interstate or something else, because there wouldn't been enough hamburgers and hot dogs. There's always enough bacon and eggs and toast. And I said at both their funerals, I said they weren't bumper sticker kind of Christians. Daddy would get in your face, and he'd knock you down, but I remember one time we had an umpire at a Little League game, made a terrible call. Dad just chewed his ass. That was, excuse my language. And then Dad ended up giving the guy a ride home. You know what I mean? And Mama she was wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
I saw one of your interviews, I think it was over the weekend, I was camping in Seville.
I've got an inner ear problem, ma'am. You're going to speak up too. I'm falling apart. Young lady, enjoy your youth, okay?
Thanks. Anyway, I saw one of your interviews with, I forget who the correspondent was, but I was camping, not in church. And I saw it on Sunday morning, and everything you answered her back, you were saying, yes, ma'am. And I was like really noticeable of how you spoke to her.
That's ABC. I believe that was the ABC. It's funny, no Republicans will go on CNN. They won't go on ABC, but I do. I don't care. It's not like, a bunch of you right-wingers are going to be watching them anyway. I might get one convert out of the whole deal. That's pretty good odds. But I try to be respectful. And I see a lot of these guys, and, I realize you women are doing men's work, but you're still ladies. And I always hold the door open. I don't care if the custodians or whatever in DC. Try to be respectful, and I know where I come from. And it's funny how that seems to almost neutralize folks.
It did.
I've been on with some pretty hardcore liberals, and I'll yes ma'am and no ma'am, and I'll fight them, that was that ABC. There was 4 million people that saw that, and they called and said, we can't have him on any other shows on Sunday. And I said, we'll call them back and tell them I already agreed to do CNN. They said, well, CNN's only 1 million viewers. And I said, I don't care. I gave my word. And so they ended up putting them on both at the same time. ABC, they filmed it 15 minutes prior, and they did it simultaneously. Somebody had it on split screen, and because I was wearing the exact same outfit. And but anyway, I'll keep doing that. I get ticked off with them. Some of the guys, Jim Acosta, it was funny. I was in y'all want a Trump story? I'll tell you a funny Trump story. So we were working on the big beautiful bill. There's about 12 or 14 of us had some problems with it, and the president was great to meet with us. It was 2 hours, me and 12 or 13 others, and the vice president was there and had all those people there. But after it's over, we went in the Oval Office, and Trump says to me, he goes, Tim, he goes, keep going on CNN. Every time you're on with one of them, they fire somebody. I was like, man, and I want you to know something. Those are the moments I try to seize them in my mind, because I realize where I come from. I'm just a kid from West Hills. I'm sitting there literally negotiating with the most powerful man in the world right now. And I do not take that for granted. I know who sent me there. And every time I leave those settings, I think, wow, what freaking world, what did God put me in the middle of? Because, I mean, I had to reach up to get a C in college. It took me 6 years to get out of UT, and I didn't drink or smoke pot. My degree is SHOP, Technological Adult Education. You look at those guys, their portfolios, I mean, they got so much money, a show pony can't jump over them. And y'all put me in a great position, and I want to thank you. I do not take that for granted. So, sorry. Any other questions?
Expanding on ABC, CNN, which ones do you feel are more trustworthy, or do they add any to make it fit their agenda?
I don't watch the news. If I'm on TV, I watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I can rebuild your pool, which I did. I can do open heart surgery, which I haven't done yet. But I watch all those how-to videos. That keeps me from going crazy. And I build skateboards and do things like that. But none of them. They're all agenda-driven, left and right. Nobody. You know, they talk about Walter Cronkite, but he was a left-winger. He turned on us during Vietnam, but regardless, he was still with America. But it's all agenda-driven. And an odd thing about it is most of them tell you what they're going to ask you beforehand. Yeah, give you a general idea, which is good because, you know, there's so much legislation out there. But that's a good thing about not being a drinker. I usually remember what went on in those meetings, and I have an incredible ability to recall stuff, information, and I've had that since I was in the state legislature. But I try to listen and choke through the crazy discussions and just try to get, and you know, I found Jake Tapper on CNN to be, he's turned out to be a pretty decent guy. We went to dinner. I asked him to go to dinner, and then I found out I couldn't pay for it, then I found out he makes like $5 million a year, so I didn't feel so bad. And I took my press guy with me, and the Cub, Andrew Davis, he helped me in my first campaign, and he was in town, and they were all just, you know, and Ted Cruz walks in this restaurant, and it ain't no big deal, but somebody must have told him my name. Hey Tim, how's it going, buddy? And I thought, you don't want to talk to me, you want to see Tapper, and they talked, but it, you know, I try to keep a friendly relationship. Politicians aside, I try to be a Christian about the deal, and I don't want to be that jerk, and I'm on the forgiving end of that spectrum, though. I'm not one of those puts it out there too much. I'm sorry, talk too much. Anybody else?
I got one more question.
We call that a follow-up.
Israel and Palestine, what's your opinion?
That's a great question. My theory is this. I think you have leadership in both sides that if they have peace, they're not going to have to be the leaders. You got Gaza, the leaders in Gaza who are living in Qatar or Qatar. They're billionaires. There's 3 of them, and they're nowhere near all that suffering. I hate the civilians getting killed. I think you've got the Hamas who is controlling a lot of the food coming in. They're stealing it, and it's in warehouses. And then and then they parade out those starving little babies. It's just bad all the way around. And they shouldn't have come over the border and hit Israel. That was some medieval stuff. I watched the videos of that, and that haunted me. And I saw what they did to one little girl who was the same age as my Isabel's, and it was just horrendous. And yeah, it's not. I remember there was a girl sitting beside me. She's in this little prayer group I go to, bipartisan. She's a Democrat, and I said, she came in a little late, and they were showing the film. And I said to her, I said, hey, there's no shame in you getting out of here. You don't need to see this. She's a mom, and she didn't need to see that stuff. And she looked at me and says, you're right, I'm getting out of here. I said, get out of here. Because people were getting sick and crying. It was awful. It was just some awful medieval stuff. But it's the Middle East. It's not our deal. And Israel's our friend, but as my daddy would say, they're not without fault. They are not without fault. And we've got to, and I'm probably the one guy in this room that's actually given Benjamin Netanyahu a fist bump when I met him. actually prayed with him. But we're not going to solve it. We're not going to solve it. And I think if we were to allow capitalism to take hold over there somehow, that would be a good start. Because people could own something that's a beautiful, and it's not bombed out to hell. It's actually, I know some Jewish businessmen that actually in the 70s looked at investing over there because of this stuff. And, you know, and radical Islam, and it's just a horrible situation. And the refugees, nobody will take them. The other Muslim countries won't take them because of the radicalization. They don't want it. They're getting a taste of those American dollars, and they're liking it. So I just don't think it's not going to be one of these overnight deals, and we're not going to send some team over there to negotiate peace. And it's a bad deal. I don't want American boys and girls over there, I can tell you that. I don't want them in Ukraine either. I'm not totally an isolationist. I realize great responsibility comes with the amount of power that God's given us, but let's be a little more judicious when we start putting our boys and girls in harm's way. That's my vote.
Tim, did you introduce Sarah?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah Fansler. She is my dynamic problem solver. Sarah's been with me since I was in the mayor's office, and she had a great job at Litton's. I think she probably wishes she was still a server at Litton's. But Sarah's beautiful. She's married. I actually did dance at her wedding. Had good food at that wedding. And Sarah's, when I get into a bind, I have a chief of staff, but I always say, call Sarah. She'll figure it out. Sarah's my girl. She was good to my little girl Isabel when I first got her, when Isabel was 4 and 5 and was hanging around the office, probably annoying everybody, but I was hearing there giggling, and Sarah would have her like on the chalkboard, and she was drawing stuff, and Isabel would just, as soon as she get there, she goes, "Where's Sarah?" I was like, "Hey, I'm right here. What are you doing?" So Sarah's wonderful.
Thanks, Tim.
Anything else? All right. Hey, I work for y'all. You got a problem, I got a problem, and I want to hear about it. And thank you, Ann, for always being my friend. I'm getting a call from a congresswoman, hang on a second. Lisa McLean.
Hey.
Don't, hang on a second. Don't curse. I'm speaking to a group of, looks like more women here. Y'all say hello. She is the number 3 in the power structure in Congress. Say hello to, it's Campbell County. These are wonderful people, Lisa. Say hello to them.
Hello. I'm calling to check out one of the best reps we have in Congress.
He's alive but wounded. I'll call you when I get in the car.
All right.
All right, I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Anyway, you got that one for free. She's a pretty cool lady. She's a buddy of mine. I helped him. Well, we just say she's in a good spot. All right, thank y'all.